Money Radio. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. It's time to talk real estate with Laura Bramnick from TalkRealEstateAZ.com. TalkRealEstateAZ.com. Laura is an attorney specializing in real estate, and she's also a real estate agent, and she works in residential and commercial and land transactions, and she's a consumer advocate. She can help put together a concrete plan for your real estate. Laura holds an active Arizona real estate license. She's been a real estate investor, a certified instructor with the Arizona Department of Real Estate, and an attorney. And for more information, the website is TalkRealEstateAZ.com. Good afternoon, Laura.
Good afternoon, Sinclair.
So good to see you.
It's great to be here.
Laura, when you sign a real estate contract, any contract really, you are creating a marriage.
Yes, it's much easier to get into it than get out of it. If for some reason you change your mind.
Oh yeah, it's easy to get into a marriage. It can be painful to get out of one.
Yes.
So we need to understand what we're doing before we sign that contract.
Yeah, understanding the terms, and you know, so many people say this is legalese, I can't figure it out, I just need to know the main points, but it's not. If you talk to someone, if you talk to an attorney, they can really explain to you fairly simply what your rights and responsibilities are. And the main thing is, what happens if you need to get out of it? In other words, there are certain risks you have to take, because the statute of frauds, there's a reason that the statute of frauds requires real estate contracts to be in writing. And it's because that they are binding, and it takes a lot to cancel a contract once it's signed. You know, unless you fall under one of the contingencies that are actually listed in the contract, or unless you specifically request or require a certain contingency. And so that's what you really have to think about before you sign it. And there's also...
But most of the contracts that we see in real estate are almost boilerplate. I mean, they just pull one off the shelf and say, here, sign.
Yeah, and that's because real estate agents and brokers in Arizona can draft these purchase and sale contracts, and the Arizona Association of Realtors has put together an excellent template, but a template doesn't respond to every situation, and so each situation is unique. And not only if you're the buyer or the seller and you sign the contract, but what if you have two buyers or two sellers, and one of them wants to get out and the other doesn't? And so you can have multiple issues of being bound. You can be bound to the party on your side of the table.
You bring up an interesting point. There are co-signers on many contracts.
Yes, there are co-signers on lots of contracts.
And a lot of times I think the person co-signing doesn't really think, oh, I'm entering into a marriage here.
Exactly.
I'm just off to the side. No, you're not.
No, you're not. And if you co-sign, let's say to purchase property, and you also co-sign the mortgage, the creditor sees you as equally liable for the whole debt. In other words, there's not your share of the debt.
Oh, you really need to be aware of that, don't you?
Yes. Each party is responsible for the whole. And so now, if the two of you had an agreement where you would split it, now if you have to pay the creditor the whole amount, then you can then pursue your partner. But that is a long, involved, expensive, complicated process.
Meanwhile, if you're signing, you also need to understand, well, what are my benefits for co-signing this contract?
Exactly. The most
there should be some benefits in a marriage, yes?
Yes. The most common scenario I see is when either people who are a couple but are not married buy property, or if two friends buy property, or if one friend is trying to help another friend out, or a family member is trying to help, you know, a son or daughter out, let's say.
Right.
And that's when and then something happens where during the terms of the contract, something goes bad. And when two people are on title, that becomes very complicated, because if you can't agree on what to do, it requires a lawsuit called a partition action, and then the court will decide what to do.
And then there are divorces as well that we've talked about in the
Yes.
past. A lot of what you do deals with families going through a divorce,
Yes.
straightening out that, because that's where people make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, people think, okay, well, you stay in the house and you continue to make the payments, and a lot of times they don't understand that they've remained liable for the payment of that mortgage. And that affects their credit. They can be sued in some circumstances, and also it can prevent them, if they need credit, if they need a credit card, if they want to buy another property, if they apply for a job and their job checks their credit. So it can have ramifications that are many times not foreseen unless someone lays it out for you.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult in a marriage, where you're husband and wife, because a lot of times even if you're not the one in the house, you want your kids to stay in the same house.
Sure.
But you have to understand all the ramifications before you just sign on the dotted line.
It could be the beginning of a beautiful relationship,
Yes.
or otherwise.
And, as long as you have an exit strategy, it will be okay, because then you've determined ahead of time. And a lot of people who bought years ago, they thought, okay, we can sell if we need to. Then the market dropped, and homes are still underwater, so selling is not an option unless it's a short sale.
That's right.
And so you really need to, in some ways, the downturn in our market was a wake-up call, because it's one more issue that you need to discuss and be ready for when you purchase property.
And I would say you don't want to enter into a quickie marriage.
Correct. I think that is the words of wisdom that come out of today's segment.
Okay. And to help in this process, to make sure that that contract is right, that you understand the implications, that's where Laura comes in. She's a real estate agent and a real estate attorney. Great combination. Give her a call before signing the contract. 480-624-2705. TalkRealEstateAZ.com is the website. 480-624-2705. 480-624-2705. Laura Bramnick. Always good information. Thank you so much.
Great to be here.